Good morning, everybody. My name is Vipul. Today, I've been joined by my colleague Damir, and this is first of few webinars that we intend to do as a part of Consent and Preference Center Management education series that we are creating at DataGuard. Quick round of introduction. My name is Vipul, and I've been with DataGuard, I would say, for just over a month. I've spent nearly 15 years in the security world, after which everybody started talking about GDPR, and I pivoted myself to the compliance world. So since 2016, I've been closely working in the privacy and compliance world with a lot of customers, educating, helping them get GDPR compliant. As a part of the journey, consent has something that has popped up every single time we've had conversations, and this is a topic that's quite near and dear to me, and hence why I'm here to talk about it. Apart from having my master's in computers, I also hold a fellowship with the International Association of Privacy Professionals. Good to meet you all, and I'll have my colleague Damir introduce himself. Damir, over to you.
Thank you, Vipul. Hello and welcome. My name is Damir. I have a background in computer science, so I studied it a long time ago. I was working as a developer and then getting into business development, and I work at DataGuard as a senior principal for the consent and preference management system. So I oversee the development. I consult with a lot of different departments just to get this product on the road to complete our offering in data privacy and security. Thank you.
Nice one. Great. Thank you, Damir. Quick word about who DataGuard is and what we do as a business. DataGuard founded in 2017 with a core purpose of protecting the people behind the data. And if we fast forward the journey for the last 7 years, as of today, we are working with over 3,000 customers across 4 different locations and more, a lot of them globally, with a strong team of 250 people. And in this uncertain times where we are as of today, we've managed to secure our Series B funding towards the end of last year. And what is really very interesting is the journey that we've had over the last 6-7 years has helped us work with a lot of interesting customers, some of them who have consented us for us to use their logo today. To give you a perspective of the association we've had with different organizations and different verticals. When we talk about the business and who we are, I think from a consent point of view, I was reflecting back on the GDPR Article 4.11, which kind of defines consent as, and I'll read it for everybody. A consent of data subject means any freely given, specific, informed, and unambiguous indication of data subject's wishes by which he or she, by a statement or by a clear affirmative action, signifies agreement to the processing of personal data relating to him or her. And I think this definition has been debated so many times over years and still gets debated on, how to interpret it. And again, then, if you go more into the detail of Article 7 in regards to what are the different ways of collecting consent, more importantly, Article 8, which talks about child consent, that's been debating a lot in the UK currently on how to use that consent. That has been the premise of why we are here today and what we are trying to do and achieve. From a customer's point of view, what is very important is to understand how DataGuard has been kind of associated with them and helping and assisting them in their journey going forward. And I think everything that comes along is keeping in mind the company, the organization, and the people who are responsible for the growth of that particular company. And when we see that kind of encompassing the ecosystem of privacy, InfoSec, and compliance together, that journey has become more and more complex. It's ever evolving. And I think the biggest challenge we see with our customers, existing, present, and past, has been they come from 2 key, I would say, experiences that they have had. On one end, they have an experience where they've been working very closely with some consulting firms, whereby there's a massive consulting fee that they need to part with, use a lot of consultants, which create a lot of documentation for them. But ultimately, it ends up either in shared drive, either on Excel sheets. It's all over the place, and it doesn't give a best end user experience on having everything under one umbrella. On the other hand, we have worked with customers who have come from a pure software initiative where they've had certain tools that they incorporated as a part of their compliance privacy journey, but they realized that having a tool in itself is not important. Not having the right resources, not having the right advice and the time has made that software or that investment more or less shelfware, which has again resulted into questions and issues. Where DataGuard comes into picture is we bring in the best of both worlds through our hybrid approach. And what we have is an integrated platform that our customers can grow into, starting off, picking one particular disciple in which they want to start off with, but also have the ability to interact with the strategic advisors, the DPOs, the CISOs that they need to work with, and then incorporate on the journey of compliance certification. I mean, predominantly we see the GDPR compliance across UK and Europe. From an InfoSec point of view, we have seen a lot of requirements coming in regards to ISO 27001, given the ability for customers to work with bigger, better organizations and showcase and lead with robust InfoSec certifications along with privacy. We have lately seen a lot of uptake in TSAC certification, particularly in UK and Europe, for organizations to work with automotive industry in Germany. But similarly, there are so many different aspects that our customers can engage us with where they're getting the best of both worlds. What we're going to focus on today is the preference side of it in regards to what is the current status on the preference world, consent world. What is it that we see as a part of working with our customers? And what are some of the best practices we see our customers incorporate to enhance that journey going forward? So while we want to get into the challenges and opportunities, we want to have a quick, I would say, engagement with our audience as of today. And I would want to launch a quick small poll where I would want you to click whatever the most appropriate or near appropriate answer that you have. The poll should be on your screen now. And I would request the participants to probably have a read and then select the most appropriate answer. It will be interesting to see what the results are. Okay. Results coming in, 65% voted. Right, why is consent and preference center important? Right, let's give it 10 more seconds. Okay. And we have the poll coming in. Okay, last 5 seconds. Right. Why is consent and preference center important to your company? Interestingly enough, 71%, and I'm going to share this, have said, we don't know our customer well enough. 14% have said, I should collect zero-party data. Similarly, we've said another 14% have said, I need to act because third-party cookies are fading off. And that's a topic in itself for discussion. But that's interesting to see that 71% says, we don't know our customers well enough. And I think that's a very valid point. And I think let's use that to start off with our discussion and get into the idea of what are the current challenges? What is the status quo? And I'm going to involve my colleague Damir here, because Damir, I think this particular point is it's a very strong point. People do not trust you with their data anymore. Can you please talk to our audience about what's your view on the privacy paradox and what that actually means?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Vipul. So what we see, or what we have come to see, is the first thing is it's very logical that you as a customer, or I as a customer, we want to get relevant information. I mean, it's clear. If I get advertisement, if I get information, I want it to be relevant, to be tailored to my needs, and to help me pick things which I need for my life or whatever. So this is on the one side, and this we see that 80% have said they want to like a personalized experience. Now, on the other hand, what we also see is it's like the same number. People don't trust companies to give them their data. So we hear in the news all the time there was now a new fine for a big American company. I think it's in the billions of euros So we as customers, we as people, we don't really know what happens with our data. So we are very reluctant to give our data away. And this creates this paradox. On the one hand, the customers, they want to get personalized information, and on the other side, they hold back this information. They don't want to give this to companies. And this might also be a point why our listeners here said we don't know enough of our customers because they don't give the information, and we want to help you to get the information. We basically want your customers to give you the information freely.
Yeah, that's true. And it's an interesting point, right? It's kind of a catch-22 situation where you want to do the right things, but you don't know what are the right things to do. And it's called quite synonymous with a lot of discussions I have on a daily basis with our customers as well in regards to, how do we go about doing things right? I remember, just to share an anecdotal example, that on one of the recent conversations I had, where we had the CMO in the room, we had one of the board members in the room, and some of the senior tech people. And while they were debating on what's the best possible way of engaging, because they couldn't come to any consensus on where they are or how does it look as of today, one of the board members just stood up and he said, you know what, why don't we just delete everything that we have and start from scratch? And I saw the CMO nearly fell off his chair. He was like, no, we can't be doing that. There are better ways of doing things, but that's not how we want to. But you're right, it does create this kind of a situation in. But, again, interesting enough, every time we talk about consent, people do talk a lot lately about, first party and zero party data. Throw some light about what's your view and what have you found out about it, please?
So sure, what we also have seen is in gathering the data. So companies are gathering data, or everybody is gathering data, be it with cookies, be it with analysis of shopping behavior, of how I surf on the website. Hands down, everybody's doing it. And what they are getting is actually not first-party data; it's some assumptions. So it's something. They gather data points and then they make assumption. Everything is implicit. So I don't really know what is going on. I just assume because you have bought this, you might be interested also in that. And this is an assumption that everybody makes, and it's really, I would say, it's walking a line because our customers don't, or the customers don't know how I came to this information. And on the other side, it might just be wrong, and then you lose the customer. So it's all about zero-party or first-party data, and this means that this is information that comes directly from your customers. It's not coming from any source. It's not coming from a third party. It's coming directly from the customers, and this is. We have heard the term data is the new oil, or it's the holy grail, or whatever. So this is what it's all about. It's basically empowering your customers to give freely their information about them, and therefore gathering first and zero party data.
Fascinating, right? And I think if I have to kind of sum it up in a way, depending on the discussions that we've had, the information that we are gathering, but also having all these kind of conversations as a part of forums like these and even other ones, if I have to conclude, I'll probably just say that it feels like that the current status quo is it's scattered everywhere. It's in silos, right? It seems to be all over the place for various different reasons. One of the common reason I see is because of mergers and acquisitions. Company gets acquired. As a part of the acquisition and the merger piece, data resides on so many different data centers, data lakes, etc., but even locally. And it's a challenge for any organization, particularly the marketing team, to amalgamate all that together. So scattered consent and preferences is something that we see very common. But that also kind of leads to low or no closeness to the customers, because when you don't know, was the consent collected properly? Do we have any kind of ability for us to look into that or question it or verify it? That seems to be lost. And hence why organizations, particularly marketing team, who want to do good, who want to create that loyalty, are struggling to find the closeness with the customer on what should I be sending them around. And that kind of leads to the third issue, which is many times customers will receive irrelevant information, and that kind of leaves a very bad taste in their mouth, like, I didn't sign up for this, why am I getting this? And it's again quite true. It's a feedback that we receive day in, day out from our customers and our prospects as and when we speak about them. I mean, with that in mind, I just want to ask our audience that we have today, get into a quick second poll on, based on what you have heard so far, what are your biggest challenges? So you should have a poll in front of you. We're just trying to understand with the audience that we have today, particularly around your consent and preference management. What are the challenges that you face? And I think the four options we have is scattered consent and preferences, don't know enough about our customers, you see a high opt-out rates, or if it's something else. So let's give everybody about 30 seconds and then I'll share the results. Okay, 15 more seconds. If you haven't answered. Okay, last 5 seconds. Okay, let's close the poll. So what is your biggest challenge? Oh, sorry, still coming in. Okay, we still have last minute somebody managed to get few results in. So thank you for that. Interesting enough, 73% people have said scattered consent and preferences, and 18% have said don't know enough about our customers, 9% high opt-out rates. So again, a clear kind of bias towards scattered consents and preferences. And again, very common, something that we see going forward. With this premise in mind, I think what I want to touch upon now is, given where we are in today's world, how do we see, or what are the best practices that we see a lot of our customers incorporate? And again, Damir, I would like to pull you back in to walk us through what has been your experience as a part of working closely with our customers in order to make sure that the scattered consents which are currently challenging, they're all brought under one umbrella. So please walk us through and the audience about what has been the best practice going forward.
So thank you very much. And I find it also really interesting from the last poll, the scattered consent and preferences, because this is something, and it's here in point one, the solution is centralize it. I often, when I talk to prospects or to our customers about consent and preference management, that one of their problems is they collect consent and preference from various touch points, various teams collect it on different parts of their websites or in the mobile app. And there is no overview over what was collected and how and where and from whom, basically. So what happens, and I recently talked to a big company, and the logo was on your first slide with all the logos. They had the problem that somebody said, okay, I opt out, please don't send me anything anymore. And then they have to go and look into every system. They have a whole team which is only doing this. Then they're searching for the records to delete those persons from everywhere. And of course, often they fail and they miss a record. Then the customer who opted out gets another email, and then you're in big trouble with the GDPR. So this is happening very often. I mean, when you hear it, you think it should be clear that you put everything in one place, but it is not, because a lot of things have grown historically. And so we are helping to centralize everything, what we then later call the single source of truth. So what is in there, this is the truth. If someone opts out, opt them out here, put the preference here, and every other system will get it from there. So this would be number one. Number two, and this is what I personally, this is something I really like, and this is also a life lesson. We are, as I said in the beginning, companies are doing so much tracking cookies. There is a world of secrecy, analyzing. Hey, why don't you just ask your customers what they want to hear? I mean, the next step from tracking cookies and things is what this one big company, A to Z, I think you know everybody who I'm talking about, what they are doing. They're proposing, hey, people who have bought this because I'm buying something have also bought something else. But now we don't know, maybe someone bought a present for someone else, so it has nothing to do with the person who bought it, and now they are saying, hey, will you also buy all the things the other person has bought? So again, I'm assuming things. and I'm more often wrong than I'm right. And we say as a best practice, simply ask your customers. They are grown-ups. They know what they want. They will tell you eventually if you give them, if you empower them and give them the tools. And the third is basically act on the information that you get. We have a big client in our portfolio. It's a fast food chain. It's a fast food chain. So in their app, they ask you, what do you like? So you can say beef or vegan or whatever, and you can click on it, but nothing happens. So you get, if I say I'm interested in vegan things, I still get advertisement for beef, which I'm clearly not interested in. And they're not the only ones doing this. I also spoke to fashion retailer where in the My Account page, I can set my preferences, what I like, but nothing happens. I'm getting information about everything. And this is even in our experience even worse, because I think, hey, I'm giving you the information, but you're simply completely ignoring it. So the third thing is, if and when you collect it, please act on it. Tailor your communications, personalize it, because then you will get more information and it will be a good experience for your customers.
Fair point. And I think, you mentioned cookies, and I think that's a topic in itself to have a discussion about, right? I mean, even today, when I visit a lot of websites, a lot of them still don't have cookie banners, and some of them who do, they're pretty inconsistent in regards to how the consent model work out there. But okay, pretty interesting to hear. So how can, clearly 71% said that consent is all over the place. So now let's get a bit more into the under the hood of how is this actually done? How do we actually achieve this? How can consent and preference manager help? Probably best, maybe if you can just walk us through a customer's journey, or what a good customer experience looks like.
So what we have this is a company we made up just to show. It's Lotus Mind Yoga. It's a chain. They're all over Germany and in the UK. So on a sign up, you can already give or ask for consent and first preferences. Don't overwhelm your users. You see, you have two options here, and so we call it progressive consent. Don't put 10 choices here. Take one or two or maybe three, and then gradually get more and more of the information. And so you will ease in your users. But this is the first step of giving tools to your customers, and they are learning. So your customers are also learning. Look, they are asking, do I want this? Yes or no? And this is, like, as I said, the first step to ease them in, to give them the tools, the possibility to give their consent. So this is basically where it starts.
Interesting. So have the engagement early on and keep it simple.
Keep it simple and early on. And so what we have seen, there are two things in here. So I said companies should act on the information they gather. But in consent and preference management, we have those two words. We have consent and we have preference. So we are collecting the preferences. This is what I'm interested in. I'm interested in events. I'm interested in yoga classes. But for the company, for Lotus Mind Yoga to act on it, they also need the consent. So they have to ask me, can I send you messages via the app, an app push? Can I send you an email? And you said at the beginning, it has to be something that the data subject has given a clear information indication that yes, I want this. And we also have to give them the opportunity to opt out. So we have to show them, and this is also where the trust comes in. We will see this later in more detail, that when I, as a user, I come in, then I see the consent I have given, I see the preference I have set. And what we have also built in, this is the audit trail. So we have an immutable, a non-changeable history of every transaction, of every interaction your customers or the customers of Lotus Mind Yoga have done. So if I, as a customer, call Lotus Mind Yoga and say, hey, why did you send me this information? Then they can go in the trail and say, hey, look, you have given, like on this day at that time, you have given your consent. If you want, we will opt you out. But here is the trail, you have done it. And this creates, and what we have seen, this creates a lot of trust.
quite interesting. And I was, as you're saying this, I was trying to relate to some of the experiences I have had as a data subject, right? You touched upon some very key elements on this particular slide, which was, preference and consent are two different things. And
Yeah.
yes, a lot of confusion still where a lot of individuals and organizations try and combine them together. They kind of are two part of the same coin in a way, but they're two different concepts. And I think understanding those concepts is very, very important. I think over the period of years, I've seen a lot of marketing teams particularly, but also compliance team get better at their understanding of, what preference and consent mean. But again, having the ability to put everything together, making sense of giving our customer, our data subject, the ability to, have a preference center whereby they can collect their preferences under one umbrella. Most importantly, having the ability to have an audit trail around it. And I think that's the biggest, I would say, plus of having automation going forward, where you can verify an individual's consent. And I remember this particularly when I'd set up my preferences with one of the vendors I use quite regularly, and I went and updated my consent. And immediately I would say I received an automated email saying, hey, this is to let you know that you have updated your consent. We have taken notifications. Going forward, you will receive communication via A and B instead of A, B, and C. So that for me was great because I know that, the service I'm trying to use, they value it, and they value it in a way where it's important for them to make sure that my preferences are taken into account and I get the relevant information which I seek.
Exactly. And this is the point what you said, they value it. This creates, this is what I said before. If you don't act on it, then why I'm giving my consent or why I'm giving my preferences when nobody seems to be interested. So this is really a great point.
Now we are getting to the interesting part of consent and preference management, right? Where we are trying to make sure that we have a preference center whereby we collect the preferences which can be audited, which can be updated. I think one of the bigger challenges I have seen having a conversation is how do I then use that and then make use of the ecosystem of the different, systems that I have within my organization to go and follow up very quickly. Do you want to throw some light on it, please?
Yes, sure. So what we have come to see and what we also have learned is our customers, they don't want yet another tool. They don't want, they have so many tools. They have a CRM, they have marketing tools. So we are, with our system, we enable you to collect consent and collect preferences. But where do you use it? You do not use it for, they have a purpose which connects them to other information. So here we see that Lotus Mind Yoga, they're using HubSpot as a CRM. So what we are doing is we are integrating our solution into HubSpot. So you don't open now a DataGuard backend or something to search for the consent. You have all the information, and we are giving you a part of the holistic view of the 360 view of your customers, and you see it inside your own tools. And this is really great because your marketing people, they have learned, or the CRM team, they have learned to work with their tools. We don't give them yet another tool. We let them use their tools and just get the information to enrich their customer views. This also puts down the bar for entry in this technology because you're using your well-known technology. And with our architecture, I might add this, you see here HubSpot, but we have into a lot of other different systems, we have integrations. So everything what's out there on the market. And even if you have something you have built on your own, because we are following this open architecture with APIs, we can integrate into everything. And this is not just the marketing mumbo jumbo, if I might say, it's reality. So we can show it to you.
Interesting. So the ability to have a consent and a preference center more or less behind the scenes, which is invisible, which is integrated, that helps you to link into various different systems that you already have, gives you the automation and the power to then maximize the best use of the consent model that you have built within the organization. Would that be a fair summary?
Exactly. It's exactly like that.
Great. So probably best again for our audience to see some of them, in action, putting it into practice. How do we go about it? maybe you may want to just walk our customers through, an example of once they have completed their automation piece, they've put their preference center in, they've had their, API linkages behind the scenes with everything. How does that then change or upgrade, or how has the journey upgraded from being all over the place to being, better with building loyalty and trust within their customers?
Sure. So let's continue talking about Lotus Mind Yoga.
Sure.
You see here the information we have put together. Let me point out some interesting things. First is they have locations in different countries. Different countries could mean that there are different regulations. So we have here the GDPR in the UK. It might change. If you have something in the United States, you will have SOC 2. So there are different regulations. Our tool makes sure that wherever the consent is given, or wherever you want to act, basically on the preferences, that you are compliant with the regulations at place. So we take care about this. You don't have to take care about that. So this is one point. The other point is what you see in the middle, website and mobile app. So we have different touch points. Consent can be collected basically everywhere. We also have, this is not in this example, but we also have like charity organizations, they collect consent with pen and papers, and then later they put it into the system. So there are all kinds of touch points that you have with your clients where you can collect the consent. With Lotus Mind Yoga, you might have like a tablet in one of your studios where someone can put in their email addresses and give their consent, or basically their preferences and the consent that you act on it. So this is basically the stage. And now let's see how Lotus Mind Yoga is doing it. And we go to the next. So this is what we have this is what we have talked about all the time. As a user, I come into my account page. So I log in. With one view, I can see everything what I have done. Yes, I've opted out of the newsletter because I don't want a general newsletter. Which, and this is another point, with this granularity does not mean that you cannot communicate with me anymore. Imagine the situation, I have a newsletter, yes, no. So I opt out because I want to get the information I'm not interested in. I'm opted out completely out of everything. And on the other side, we all have seen it. Do you want a newsletter? Yes, no. It's not very enticing. So if you say, do you want our general newsletter? Do you want information about our events? This is more enticing. So people will more likely opt in, sorry. And here, and then when I log in, I can see everything I've done. There is no guesswork. There is no secrecy. There are no tracking cookies. I as a user, I'm not thinking how in the world have they come to the conclusion that I'm interested in events. And here I can see everything. And I can opt in here, opt out there, opt in here, and I can change it all the time. This gives me the power and this creates the trust. And this is what we have seen. We will see some numbers later. This is where the opt-in rates go up, opt-out rates go down, and where you get the information about your customers. And the information, the preferences, they might change over time.
Fascinating. So give your data subject the ability to choose what they want, and based on that, use your integrations to send them only that related information, which then creates a far better, far happier customer experience rather than irrelevant customer experience.
Exactly. And you can also use this as a tool to make, let's say, if you want to make a new yoga class, you can ask your customers, what are you interested in? And so they can give you preferences. So then you can plan ahead and say, okay, nobody's interested in this class, so I will skip it and make another one. And what is also interesting, we have talked about different industries, different companies. So it's not just retail, it's not just e-commerce, it's not just yoga, it's everything. So everything where you want to have a meaningful, and this is an important word, a meaningful communication. And it's a two-way street. You ask questions, you get answers. Where you want to have a meaningful communication with your customers, and I think this is in every industry, this is really important. And here we have put in some examples which you can use to see where this all can be used. Sign up, this information, you ask questions, you get answers. It's across all industries, like you have shown in the first slide with all the logos. They're also sure. in different industries.
Sure, got it. So again, empower your data subjects, empower your user, your customer, let them feed you with what you want, make sure that you're collecting it appropriately, have an auditable trail around it, and then use those to not only send out relevant information, but also gives you a lot of data points to decide which way your business wants to move forward, because there's a lot of intel now that you're collecting on the back of it.
Exactly. And you know that this is what we have called zero-party data. It's data you can really rely on.
Sure. I mean, I think the last point we would want to talk about is maybe a live example that we have, particularly in the UK. You want to show some light on the journey that the first group have had with us?
Yes. So this is one of our bigger clients is First Group. The people from the UK might know them. They operate TOCs, train operating companies. In Germany, we have Deutsche Bahn, so it's a bit different, but you can look at it as all those trains in the cities themselves. So they have around the UK different companies. They are collecting preferences and consent when you go on a train and you want to get Wi-Fi. And since they use our system, and it's not only the technology, we also advise how to use it, we consult, they have seen those numbers. So with Southwestern Railway, which is a company of First Group, they have increased 316% the opt-in rates because it's more interesting. Yes, I want to opt in because I want to get information about this line from A to B. This is what I'm interested in. From C to D, I'm not interested in. So I will opt in here. And they have managed to get new marketable contacts in their database in their first 12 months, which is 70,000, which then translates directly to more money, because this is what it's all about in the end. You are business, they are business. They want to make money. So they have meaningful communication with their customers, and they make a business out of it. And the same for Avanti West Coast. Sorry, you wanted to ask a question?
No, I was just going to say it's fascinating, right? Because every time I've jumped on a train, if it's a long distance commute that I have to, we all know how sketchy 4G, 5G can be as we go through, and then you naturally just go and connect onto the train's Wi-Fi, right? And yes, if you have the right preference center out there, it not only creates a good user experience while on the journey, it also helps create a track of it later on. So pretty fascinating in regards to see how good they have taken this into their stride and converted into a revenue generating model, which again, from an opt-in rate, 316% is pretty significant. And so that's good to know. But so it's not only does it have a direct impact on the bottom line, it's also creating that multi-touch point customer journey experience whereby the customer is feeling valued about the service that you're consuming apart from just traveling on the train.
Exactly. And so it's you engage with your customers, you don't put them there and do nothing with them, you engage with them, you ask them questions. And they see this engagement and they're giving freely the information. It's not a must. If I don't want to give you my information today because I don't know, I'm not in the mood or something, I don't have to. But yes, why not? Yes, I'm interested in I would like to have a coffee on board or something. So, and this is where they can learn about their customers and grow their business. And that's basically what it's about.
Sure. I know we are coming up to our time here, and I also want to leave some time for some Q&A. I think there's a question I saw in the chat that said, I'm missing an option to opt out from all and deleting all data. Now, this is quite fascinating, right? The opt-out option. Usually that goes under a SAR, a data subject access request, where, hey, I've consented everything, but now I've had enough of you. I don't want to receive anything. Can you please delete my data? Do you want to throw some light in regards to how that journey goes across, starting from a request coming in to completion?
So when a request comes in and when you have set up everything in the right way where we will help you, then basically you would go, let's say, into your CRM, you would find this user, and when you get the request, because we said everything is centralized, you can then with one click opt them out everywhere and stop every communication. It's easy as that. It's not like with the company I've mentioned before, they have to search multiple places. It's one place, one click, done.
So again, bringing in automation in place whereby if a data subject file puts in a right to deletion, which they can, it is an automated flow whereby once the request comes in, the SAR gets kind of logged into a portal, which is also trackable, I'm assuming. And that then goes into the backend system where potentially all the different systems which hold the customer data or the data subjects data could be, if it's an employee, it could be HR related. If it's a customer, it could be CRM related, marketing related. All those points are pinged through the API integration. Respective commands have been fired to make sure that data is then deleted. And then a respective confirmation has been sent back to the data subject saying, hey, based on your request, we can confirm that we have deleted your data. We don't hold any of your data going forward. Is that a fair summary?
That's a fair summary, exactly.
Great stuff. I know there are a few other options that we want to cover. The last point, which is kind of the summary of how we want to. Maybe you may want to give a quick 30 seconds view of how this journey evolves.
So those are the points we have talked about. So start early in the journey to collect consent and preferences. This is point one. Point two is build this dashboard like whatever to give your customers full control over everything. They have consented, they have opt-in, they can opt out, show everything to them, be transparent. This creates a lot of trust. We're also very open with the opt-out options. So don't hide them anywhere. People will find it. They will only get upset if they have to search long for it. And as the last one, act on it, tailor it, personalize your communication. It will be recognized by your customers.
Fabulous. Good. Damir, thank you so much for the insight. It was helpful. I think given the time that we have, there are a few questions which have come our way, and I would want to use the next maybe 5-7 minutes for us to take some of those questions and answer them. Just for the sake of audiences, if we cannot cover all the questions today, we will make sure that we'll reply back to you on an email. So the first question that I see is, how do you use the CRM and preference manager together to learn more about customers?
So what we have mentioned before with the HubSpot example, we see ourselves as a plugin. So we are collecting a part of all the information you can get from your customers. So we plug easily in. You won't even know we are there. You will just see a holistic view in your CRM about your customers. Everything will be there without you having to worry about the details, what's going on in the back end.
Okay. Next question. Are preference collected only on emails? And I think we touched upon it on our presentation. And there's a follow-up question to that. How can I collect it from multiple customer touchpoints?
So you can put in those questions. Let's call them questions. You can put them in every touch point you can think of. So in landing pages on your websites, you can do also A/B testing. In your mobile apps, you can have, when you have stores, you can have people come in, you can put their, we have seen this, tablets where they can leave their email addresses and put and give preferences. So there, every touch point, even pen and paper, you can think of where you can engage with your customers, you can collect consent and those preferences.
So every point of contact where you have a customer interaction, could be at an event, could be on your website, on your portal, on your
Yes.
mobile, those form the different sources of collection of consent. So it's just not your website or just not your emails. Okay, makes sense. I think one last question I would want to ask at this point. What is the average deployment time for such a solution? And again, it's a two-part question. So part one is average time for deployment of a solution. And the second part is, will I have to involve IT team as well?
So for the first part, of course, it depends on the complexity, but we can bring you up to speed in less than a week.
Mm-hmm.
So where you can start collecting the first consent. We will help you. We will be there. We will consult you. We have our pre-sales engineers. Everybody will be engaged with you. So it can be less than a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. This is the normal. This is the normal implementation time. We take it from there and then we grow. We build a smaller model and then we scale out. This goes very fast.
So
yes.
So sorry, I was just going to say that, I remember one example particularly where it was a decently, mid-sized, big-sized organization. And the way in which the deployment went across was we picked up one particular site, got the CPM model involved in there, got it matured, and used that as a success story to then go and deploy it across various different stages. So probably start small and then expand into a larger organization rather than trying to cover everything under one umbrella.
Exactly. And we're talking 1-digit weeks, so 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like this for each iteration. So it goes fairly fast. And the second thing that you mentioned is you don't necessarily have to involve your IT department. So there is typically 1 or 2 engagements they have on your side. It depends on your architecture, but we can also help you and do it for you. You have to put in some blocks on your website, so some building blocks on your website or into your mobile app. This is basically where you would need your IT, but we can also host what we call preference centers for you. So you just point and click, build those points of interaction, and we will host them for you. And so there is no IT involvement whatsoever. It's up and ready to use in minutes.
Okay, that's fascinating because again, there are and there can be challenges where with IT, change management could be something that needs to take into account that can delay the process. So it's good to know that you may need the use of help of IT where appropriate, but if an organization decides not to and have hosted consent centers, they could still use that and have a quick turnaround.
Yes. So we actually have implemented this in our own company for the consent when new employees comes on. When we give the consent, yes, you can use our pictures on LinkedIn or something like this. And our people team, they didn't want to involve our technical teams because they have a lot of other things to do. And so we gave them this tool and they can do all by themselves.
Fascinating. That's good to know. Right. Just from an audience point of view, we have one last poll to ask you a question of. And the question is coming your way now. Keeping in mind, the different stakeholders that you have within your business, or keeping in mind the importance of a project like this, who is the main driver of a project within your organization? So the poll is live now. I would request you to please respond back. The responses that we have there are marketing team, legal team, your IT team, your senior management, or is it a multiple, it's a combination of multiple teams. So the poll is open. We'll give it about 20 more seconds. So yeah, please go ahead and lock in your responses. Okay, I can see responses coming in. Okay, coming in faster now. Let's give it 5 more seconds. Okay, let's share the responses of the final poll. I think we've got more or less every answer. So fascinating to see that 50% said it's marketing led, 25% said it's legal led, 13% said IT led, which is good to see that IT teams are keen about it. And then there's a senior management stakeholder requirement as well. So it seems like a part of it is also coming from top down. It's just not bottom up. But again, 50% is marketing led, naturally, obviously, because of excuse me, their involvement and the benefit that they get out of it. Damir, thank you so much. This was pretty helpful in regards to understanding where we are and what the journey should look like. Just a quick reminder for the audience, we will share the recording of this webinar with you on the back of the webinar getting completed. Should you have any questions, our contact details are on the screen. Please feel free to drop us an email and we'll happily take more questions. Of all the questions that we have not managed to respond today, we will follow up individually with all those questions and the responses appropriately for them. As a part of you participating on the webinar today, we are offering you a free proof of concept, which is basically a 2-week trial, no obligation trial of the CPM platform that DataGuard has. So if you're interested, please let us know. And lastly, there should be a link in the chat where, as a part of the series, we have the next webinar in the CPM series happening on 15th of June. Damir will be a participant there, but we also have Dr. Franz Schmel, who is a very popular known individual, works a lot on privacy and compliance journeys for customers. And we will be talking in detail about further consent models that happen within different organizations. So if that interests you, please go ahead and register. Finally, I would like to thank Damir for your time. I think, good 50 minutes used. Again, audience, thank you so much for coming along today, for the participation, and we shall be in touch with you sharing the recording. But again, appreciate your participation. Thank you again, and have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you everyone. Thank you Vipul. Thank you very much. Thank you the audience. It was nice being here.